Yes, sir. Can you hear us?
Yes, Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can indeed, and the floor is all yours. You may formally proceed, sir, with your presentation now.
Okay, thanks, Ali, for a very elaborate introduction, and assalamu alaikum, everybody who has joined us, and thank you for joining us. Let's get started. As you can see, the topic is can you say what your strategy is or what your corporate strategy is? This is based upon a Harvard article that was published in 2008. I have given the notes in the end if somebody is interested in reading the full article. A lot of times we hear about this strategy and we have a strategy or we don't have a strategy, but based upon the research that that has been conducted, a lot of times even the executives are not clear what strategy is, or the strategy statement is not clear, or they're not clear about the scope or the advantage of the strategy statement. So let's take a look at it. Ali, somehow I cannot page up and down on my presentation. I don't know why it's locking up. Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Could you please, sir? I think you might have to click on the screen. Maybe could you do that and try to?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Most executives cannot articulate the objective, scope, and advantage of their business in a simple statement. If they can't, neither can somebody else. What they're trying to say is a lot of executives, they cannot really be clear on what the strategy is, or clearly define the strategy statement, especially the objective, the scope, and the advantage of their business. Why should customers buy their products or services? And if you are an executive and if you are able to clearly articulate, that's great, but a lot of times people cannot. And if the executives top management cannot articulate that strategy, there's a very highly likely chance that the subordinates will not be able to do that, or people working with them will not be able to do that. Now, the company strategy, there are two simple questions that one should ask in terms of the company strategy. The first question is, can you summarize your company strategy in 35 words or less? If so, would your colleagues put it the same way? Meaning, if you define your strategy in 35 words or less, will your peers or will people working with you, will they be able to put it exactly the same way, or maybe 80 to 90% the same way? In our experience, there are very few executives that can honestly answer these two simple questions. A lot of times people have lots of words in their strategy, and when you go out of their room and ask one of their peers, they will have a totally different understanding or different version of that strategy. So even though these are very two simple questions, but the answers could be as different as the number of employees working in an organization. Okay. Conversely, if the companies that don't have a simple and clear statement of strategy, they're likely to fall into the sorry category of those that have failed to execute the strategy. What we're saying is that if you don't have a clearly defined strategy statement, then chances are you will not be able to execute your strategy. And then that could be problematic. In an astonishing number of organizations, executives, frontline employees, and all those in between are frustrated because no clear strategy exists for the company or its line of business. As a matter of fact, a lot of times there is a strategy, but people cannot define it because nobody has taken the time to write that strategy statement in a clear and succinct manner. I'm sure you have heard of some of the complaints, and I'm going to show about 3 or 4 examples that might resonate pretty well with you. You might have heard of them. For example, one guy we were talking to, that he said, I try for months to get an initiative off the ground, then it is shut down because it does not fit the strategy. Hey, why didn't anyone tell me that at the beginning? I mean, these are some of the frustrating times, and people show their frustration. Second guy that we talked to is like, I don't know whether I should be pursuing this market opportunity. I get mixed signals from the powers to be or powers that be, meaning from the top management. So I don't know whether I should be going after this market or that market. Again, it's because there is no clearly defined strategy statement. There's another person who said, why are we bidding on this customer's business again? We lost it last year and thought we agreed that not to waste our time chasing the contract. Again, the strategy statement was not clear, and this gentleman was frustrated with the company. Another example is, should I cut the price for this customer? I don't know if we would be better off winning the deal at a lower price or just losing the business. Again, if the strategy statement is not clear, and I'll talk about in terms of what the elements of a strategy statement should be, if it's not clear, then people get confused. Should they be going after the growth, or should they be going after the profit? Meaning, should they be growing the company, or should they be growing the profit margin? So those things need to be quite clear. Leaders of an organization fail to appreciate the necessity of having a simple, clear, and succinct strategy statement that everybody can internalize and use as a guiding light for making difficult choices. What we are trying to sell here is the strategy statement does not have to be too complicated. As a matter of fact, it should be simple, clear, and succinct so that everybody, all employees in the organization, they can understand it and they can internalize it. They, hey, that's what it is, and this is what we got to do. Now, why should companies have a clear definition of a strategy? For two key reasons. Number one is once you have that, then the formulation becomes easier because executives know and the employees know what they're trying to create, what type of products or services they are going to create, or what kind of products and services they're going to sell. The second element is the implementation of that strategy. As they say, if we can define it, we can execute it. If we can't define it, we'll have a hard time executing. So implementation becomes much easier because the strategy's essence can be readily communicated and easily internalized by everybody in the organization. What are the key elements of a strategy statement? There are three critical components of a good strategy statement. There could be a number of them, but if you can get these three right, chances are that you will have a pretty good strategy statement. What is the first one? The first one is the objective. The objective of your company, your product and services should be very clear. The second is the scope, and the third is the advantage. Now I'm going to talk about all three things one by one. Let's take a look at the objective. Any strategy statement must begin with a definition of the ends the strategy is designed to achieve, meaning what is the end goal. The definition of that should not only an end point but also a time frame for reaching it. For example, we are going to increase the customer base from 10,000 to 15,000 by 2016. So the objective should be very clear. And as they say, the objective should be SMART, or it should be specific, measurable, and time-bound. We need to, and that should be reflected in the strategy statement, the objective. What are we going to sell? What are we going to do in the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? So it should be specific, measurable, and time-bound, these three things. Then comes the second part, which is the scope. It is also crucial to define the scope or domain of the business, the part of the landscape in which the firm will operate. For example, if we are going to start a restaurant business, is it going to be a sit-down or is it going to be like McDonald's? You know, what is going to be the location? So these things should be very clear. So if you are, what are the boundaries beyond which it will not venture in? What are the boundaries? Outside boundaries, that we will not go outside of this arena. And the third thing is, if you're planning to enter the restaurant business, as I said, will you provide sit-down or quick service? For example, is it going to be a French food or Mexican? You know, is it going to be on the East Coast, the West Coast, or the entire country? So the scope should be very clear. And within the scope, there are three sub-dimensions. One is the customer, the second is the geographic location, and the vertical integration. What type of customers are we going to go after? Is it the youth that we are going to go after? Is it the Is it the people at the age of 40 to 50, or is a senior citizen? And the geographic location, as I talked about earlier, and the vertical integration. If we are going to we're going to be in a restaurant business, are we going to produce our own bread, or we're going to source it? So these are the 3 dimensions of the scope. The third thing is the advantage. What is it? Why should a customer buy our product or services? Your competitive advantage is the essence of your strategy. What your business will do differently from or better than others defines the all-important means by which you will achieve your stated objective. Why should I buy your product and services and not your competitors? The completed definition of a company's competitiveness consists of 2 key parts. One is the customer value proposition. What is the value proposition? And also what unique activities or services that you are going to provide to the customer, so the customer should come to you. Examples on value proposition. There are 3 examples. For example, Southwest Airlines in the United States. Their value proposition was low cost and frequent flights. As a matter of fact, if any of you have traveled on Southwest Airlines in the United States, the first announcement that they make is, hey, welcome to everybody. All of you have been upgraded to first class. Guess what? There is no first class or business class. You know, it's just general seating. So they provide a low fare, but at a value price. And then there's a company called Progressive Insurance, which was the still is the auto insurance company. When you call them, they not only give you the quote or the pricing for their insurance company, but they also started providing pricing for the competitors. And it was very interesting why they started doing that, because that was the value proposition that they were giving it to the customers, because they were going after a specific segment of the market or the customers that they knew if they cannot cater, it doesn't really matter. The customer is going to go somewhere else anyway, but at least they will remember Progressive Insurance. And then everybody who's been to the U.S. or in Europe, they understand Walmart. Walmart, what is it, their slogan? They low price every day. So these are some of the examples of value proposition. Now comes the hierarchy of company statements. How do you go about actually developing a strategy statement? Let's go over that. First, as we all know, vision. Vision says, hey, what we want to be in about 10 years, 20 years from today. Mission, why we exist, why our company exists. Values, what we believe in and how we will behave. And then comes the strategy. What is our game plan? What is our competitive game plan? And the balanced scorecard, meaning how are we going to monitor our plan. Within strategy, as we talked about, there are 3 components. One is the objective, which it leads to the ends. The second is the scope, which is the domain, and third is the advantage, which is the means. So we got the ends, the means, and the domain. So that should be reflected in the strategy statement. Okay, developing a strategy plan. The first step is to create a strategy. Great strategy. So you create a strategy, which, by the way, requires very careful evaluation of the industry landscape. You need to know what industry you're going to operate, what customer segments you're going to go after, and things like that. This also includes developing a detailed understanding of customer needs, segmenting the customer, as I said, and identifying unique ways of creating value for the customer. So that's how you create a strategy plan. It also calls for a competitor analysis, as you all know, and of the current strategies, and a prediction of how they might change in the future. Then there's something called sweet spot. So what is a sweet spot? As we all know, we work in a particular industry using different technologies and things like that, and that's what we call the context, the technology, the industry, and the demographics. Then what we have our competitors. All of us who operate in the corporate world, we have competitors, and for that matter, now even the public sector. Then we have the customer's needs. So we got the context, we got the customer needs, we got the competitors offering. Now, and plus we have our company's capabilities or a company's products and services. Now, where does this the sweet spot lie on these intersections. So I would like you to watch carefully. I'm going to show you on the screen where the sweet spot lies. So here's the sweet spot. One more time. Here's the sweet spot. Okay. The sweet spot is basically where your company's product and services match better than the customer's needs better than your competitors, meaning you are matching your customers' needs and wants 100%, and your competitors don't, because they are not offering the same products and services. That's why you can see that little circle in there, or the intersection point. That's called the sweet spot. Okay. So now let's go through the process of developing a strategy. The process of developing a strategy and then crafting the statement that captures its essence in a readily communicable manner should involve employees in all parts of the company and all levels of the hierarchy. This is very important when we are actually developing the strategy. Employees at all levels should be involved, not only the top management but down to the lowest level. I mean, there could be different approaches. We can do bottom up or top down, but all employees should be involved. And the wording of the strategy statement should be worked through in painstaking detail. In fact, that can be the most powerful part of the strategy development process. Once we have the strategy, when we are ready to put those 35 words or less, you have to go through very painstaking details, and that could take a lot of time because you want to be simple but at the same time clear and succinct. Okay, strategy statement, it is usually in heated discussions over the choice of a single word that strategy is crystallized and executives truly understand what it will involve. Sometimes you and your colleagues might have a debate on a single word, but that debate should take place. That debate is very helpful because that could help understand the customers about your product and services. So don't be shy of debating every single word that goes into the strategy statement because that time that you spent as a team, as a company, it's going to be worth it. The end result, however, should be a brief statement that reflects the three elements of an effective strategy that we talked about. Okay, now when the strategy statement is circulated throughout the company, the value proposition chart and activity system should be attached. So what were the benefits, what's good, what's bad, and all that kind of stuff. So that should be clearly defined. Strategy statement, I mean, cascading the statement throughout the organization so that each level of management will be the teacher for the level below becomes the starting point for incorporating strategy into everyone's behavior. What they're saying is, starting from the top, you are the teacher for the C-level, C-suite, and the C-suite, then comes the senior manager, the senior executives, and the senior executive and directors, and then go down the chain, the organization chain. So we need to cascade. Once we have put together the strategy statement, we need to make sure that every employee understands it the way we understand it. So it needs to be cascaded down to the lowest level. Strategy statement, the value of rhetoric should not be underestimated. What we are trying to say is you need to keep repeating that strategy statement. You need to have it posted all over the hallways and the bulletin boards on your intranet, so that every employee understands, they see it, they understand it, and you need to keep repeating that. A 35-word statement can have a substantial impact on a company's success, because if people understand it, they will be able to implement it as well. Words do lead to action. That's why you as leaders, you need to motivate your employees, and the best way to do is to clearly define the strategy and have a strategy statement so that everybody can understand, because that will lead to actions and to customer service. Spending the time to develop the few words that truly capture strategy and that will energize and empower your people will raise the long-term financial performance of your organization. What we are saying is, once people understand it, they will be able to better execute it. If they can better execute it, that means the customers are satisfied, and the customers are satisfied, you can generate more revenue. So it's basically a circle. Now comes the point Just want to share one good example that was also quoted in that Harvard article from a company called Edward Jones. Here's their strategy statement. Take a look at it. Edward Jones and Company aims to grow to 17,000 financial advisors by 2012 from about 10,000 today by offering trusted and convenient face-to-face financial advice to conservative individual investors who delegate their financial decisions through a national network of one financial advisor offices. Now let's take a look at it. All three elements that we talked about are clearly stated in this strategy statement. It's time bound. They're saying by 2012. They're saying we want to grow from 10,000 to 17,000 by offering trusted, convenient face-to-face financial advice to conservative individual, meaning they have segmented the market. And also they're saying who delegate their financial decision through a national network. There goes the geography part. So they want to be nationwide. You can say, you will offer your products and services on the eastern or western province. So they're very clear. So that's how, this is how a company's strategy statement should look like. But again, while I'm concluding, putting together a strategy statement is a time-consuming process, and you should not be shy of getting everybody in the company involved and coming up with a strategy statement. And if you have to argue, and I hope you do argue with each other and debate on every single word that goes into the strategy statement, because if once you define it clearly, then people understand it. If people within your company, they understand it correctly or the way you want them, chances are that your customers will also understand it. So that's all I have, and I'll open the floor for question and answer.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Rizwan Amin Sheikh.
Ali, we can take it.
Yeah, folks, now we are open for the Q&A, question and answers. If you have a question, you could raise your hand. There's a hand icon. If you click on it, I'll be able to give you an opportunity to speak to Dr. Rizwan, or you could put your questions in the chat box, and I will be happy to read them over on your behalf. I've already noticed a few questions in the chat box, so let me start reading them over. There's a question from the brother, sir, execution. In executing the plan, can you identify major issues that surround who manages and monitors the plan and how the plan is communicated and supported?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Again, I will go back to the strategy statement. Once you have your statement and you have clearly defined it and people have understood it, then what you do is you come up with a execution plan. And once people understand the strategy statement and you translate that into a strategic plan, and that should be cascaded down to the lowest level, then only then execution can become relatively easier. I'm going to tell you right now is it's never going to be easier. It's going to be challenging. But the clear statement you have, the better plan you will have, and the third element is the communication of the strategy statement and the communication of the strategic plan, and then that can help you with the execution part of the strategy. Hope I answered your question.
Okay. There's another one, interesting one. While wording strategy, could you elaborate what is that painstaking experience that we ought to go through? Can you give some examples?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, let's go back. I'm going to go back one more time to the, let's take a look at the Edward Jones. For example, say Edward Jones and Company aims to grow from 17,000, but some of your colleagues say, no, we're not going to be able to go 17,000. That is out of the question. We can only go from 10,000 to 12,000. So now you and I or your colleagues can have a debate of 1 week whether we're going to go from 10,000 to 12,000 or to 17,000. Okay, now they're saying by offering trusted and convenient face-to-face financial advisor. Well, some people might say, no way, we cannot give face-to-face. Some people, they can just call us and we can give them the information on products and services. You can have a debate on that. You know, so these can be the painstaking details or the questions that you and your colleagues need to figure it out. For example, another thing is the conservative individual investors. Okay, so who are the conservative individual investors? Your definition and my definition could be different, but this is something that you and your colleagues need to sit down and hash out the details. So that's what we mean by painstaking details.
Okay.
Okay.
Another one from Brother Ahmad. What parts of the strategy statement should become part of the rhetoric used with customers?
That's a very good question. As a matter of fact, Edward Jones, they have their strategy statement. They have disclosed it to the customers. So again, this is up to you and your colleagues to decide. If it's 35 words or less, I would say share the whole thing with them. Of course, you don't want to disclose your strategic plan and how you're going to execute it, but this 35 words or less statement, there is no harm in sharing that with your customers. Yes, of course, strategic plan and the how you're going to execute it, that should stay confidential to the employees. It should not go outside. Yep.
Okay, seeing lots of questions popped up, so let's move quickly. This one is interesting. Most of the management in this part of the world believes that actions speaks louder than words. How would you like us to convince them that words to lead to the actions?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's pretty much true not only in this part of the world or that part of it. It's true pretty much all over the world. Actions do speak louder than the words, but we have to say a few words so that then people can start acting upon them, and then comes the leadership part. Then we need to lead by example. That's the part. And if you look at in the Middle East, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is the best example. He led by example, but he, mashallah, used to speak. You know, he was very clear when he was speaking to the people. So that's why, again, have a very simple and a clear strategy statement, and then lead by example, which is LBE. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, another short one. What is the difference between corporate strategy and a functional strategy?
Corporate strategy and a functional strategy, sometimes it's used interchangeably. In the functional part, there's a lot of times people include the execution part, as one of the brothers asked earlier about how do you go about executing it. So it depends how you guys define it within your organization, but corporate strategy is a higher level, and the functional part could contain the actual execution part.
Okay, somebody asked about the mission statement. Should mission statements say what we do and why does our organization exist?
Yeah, I mean, as we said, you need to have, as an organization, you need to have all these elements: the vision, the mission, and the strategy. Vision, as say, hey, where do you want to be when you grow up? Are you going to be an engineer, doctor, whatever? So as a company, when we grow up 10 years from today, where do we see ourselves? As the #1 telecom operator in the Middle East? You know, that's that. Okay, now why we exist? What is our mission? How are we going to serve our customers? And then comes the values part and the strategy part and the monitoring part. So all these parts need to be clearly defined, and they should be linked, but they should not be confusing especially to the employees or even to our customers. So, but they definitely need to be integrated and linked with each other.
All right, there's another one posted. Where's yeah? What is the constructive approach towards measuring a strategy?
Again, that's a very good question. Again, if you see it on my screen, the Edward Jones strategy with the statement, they say they want to grow from 10,000 to 17,000 by 2012. Very easy. Okay, so let's by end of 2012. If you are at 18,000 or 17,000, bingo, you got it. But if you are at 15,000, hey, you didn't get it. So that's why, it has to have an objective, and an objective has to be SMART. It has to be specific, measurable, and attainable, and time-bound. Okay.
Okay. I guess we have just scrolling through. I think I missed one question somebody asked. Yeah. I think this is regarding to the sweet spots, I believe you mentioned. Should your strategy match your strengths in a way that provides value to your customers? Doesn't it help to build an organizational reputation and recognizable industry position?
Absolutely, but that should be your goal, that should be your objective, but you should be able to do it better than your competitors, or you should be, ideally, the sweet spot says you are the only one who is doing all these things. That's why it's called a sweet spot, because you are providing the best value proposition, and currently nobody else is doing it. And let's say once you have the competitors, you are still better than the competitors. So that's why it is a sweet spot for you guys. Next question.
Okay. Well, we have another question, but I'm not sure if I got it. This is from brother Tahir Imran. You posted, you means more financial advisors are required by offering trust and convenient or more face-to-face financial advice? I don't know if I understood this question properly. Dr. Rizwan, would you like to take this, or?
Can you repeat that one more time?
Okay, it's posted. You means, he said, you mean more financial advisor required by offering trust and convenient or more face-to-face financial advice? I don't know. Brother Ty, could you please please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that's fine. The Edward Jones company, they deliberately decided that that they want to offer trusted and convenient face-to-face advice to the individual, a conservative individual. So every word that is written, they carefully chose that word. Trusted and convenient, meaning when you meet with your clients, this is the kind of brokerage business because people are giving millions of dollars, you need to develop, or you need to have their trust. Otherwise, they will not give you millions of dollars, or they will not put those millions of dollars at your disposal to invest on their behalf. So that's why Edward Jones' strategy was to meet with the customers face to face. So that's why they had offices throughout the United States, and they would go after the conservative individual investors. So what is a conservative individual investor? The conservative individual investor is somebody who basically wants to seek advice from somebody, from an advisor that they can trust, and then they will give the money. And the best way to do is you sit down with somebody, you have a face-to-face meeting, and then once you develop the trust and then you have the confidence, then people will give you money. So that's what they meant by trusted and convenient face-to-face financial advice.
Okay, thanks, sir. How is this strategy statement model different from sales statements? Another one.
Again, good question. And if you see again, going back to the elements, the scope, the advantage, and the offering, and the geographic location. So generally, in a sales statement, they say we want to grow the revenue by, let's say, 20% next year, and by increasing the market share. generally statement, or we want to go from $2 billion to $2.2 billion next year. So sales statements are more, as you said, financial driven, and they're more financial focused than the geographic focus or the objective focus. So that's the difference.
Okay. Another one, can there be different types and values of corporate strategy, or is it recommended to have one universal statement?
Oh, that goes without a question. There has to be one, because think about it. If you have 12,000 employees working for your company or working for you, and you have 10 different statements, so how are you going to control that? So 12,000 times 10 different statements, so that's 120,000. And then on top of that, every person will have his or her own interpretation. So no, you should have only one clear strategy statement.
Okay. Where are we now? Where are we going? How will we get there? What is the best approach and methodology to assess?
A good question. That's we usually, it takes us about a week to figure that out, but or even longer. This is a discussion that needs to start from the top management, then it needs to trickle down, and that's why I said that in the presentation. Then it needs to be debated with all the employees. Okay. What do we want to be? Where do we want to go? So again, vision, mission, what are values? What do we mean? What are our ethical values? You know, how are we going to sell to the customer? So then come with the strategy statement. So this is something that you need to work through as a team, and there are training courses offered. There's consultants who can help you out. So there are a number of ways, but it takes time. It's a challenging task, but it's worth spending the time.
Okay, another one. Some developing countries are not stable in the businesses. How can we develop a strategy that should gain trust among the investors?
That's a good question. Again, in a developing world, what first thing you ought to do is, what you can do is you can revise your strategy statement maybe every couple of years or every year. Nobody is stopping you from doing that. But in terms of earning the trust of your customers, this depends upon on the products and services that you're offering, and usually it's your track record. Even if it's a financial services highly volatile market, I mean, for the last 12 months or so, for the last 6 months, how have you done as a financial advisor for your clients? That would be the judge. I mean, again, it's the historical data. If you keep giving good advice most of the time, if not 100% of the time, and if your investor is satisfied, that's how you will earn the trust. But your question is a good one, because developing countries are highly volatile. But that does not mean you cannot earn the trust of your customers. It's the same thing. If you deliver what you promise, inshallah, you will be able to earn their trust.
Okay, I guess that brings us towards the end of the webinar. Thank you very much, Dr. Rizwan. I would like to thank you specifically on behalf of MILE for your time and for sharing this valuable experience and presentation with our participants. And
yeah, thank you all. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. I mean, it's a pleasure having you, and thank you all those who participated in this webinar and making it a bit interactive with your questions. And once again, Dr. Rizwan, thank you very much. Just a quick announcements that folks, for our upcoming webinars and programs, you can always visit www.mile.org to learn more about the programs. We have also recently launched, rather a soft launch for our MILE community, which is community.mile.org. We have already on board a couple of subject experts in media and communications, and on emotional intelligence, and on high-performing businesses. So please feel free to join. It's free, and you'll have an opportunity to interact with those subject experts. Meanwhile, once again, Dr. Rizwan, thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Very good questions. Thank